everybody, Marty. Welcome to another episode of Reasonably Tactical. Today we're going to talk about my definition of a hero, but first I wanted to talk about September 11th. The reason I want to address this is, 2 days ago was the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, and it was glossed over. There was barely any media coverage. Nobody really talked about it. And where it struck a nerve, my daughter came home from school saying that kids even laughed when they did the moment of silence at the beginning of the school day. It disgusts me, the state of the nation we're in. We forget that there's real problems out there. There's real dangers out there. And we focus on things that really, really aren't problems. I just kind of want to talk about my 9/11 experience. So, September 11th, 2001, I was a young infantryman, assigned to 10th Mountain Division, and was down at Fort Polk, Louisiana, doing a mission readiness exercise. Early in the morning, we had the OCs came out, the observer and controllers, and said that we were going to do a pause to the exercise because our nation was under attack. We kind of laughed it off, thinking that, all right, what scenario are they going to throw at us this time? Until the captain OC came out, and he brought a little generator with a TV. Back then we had black and white TVs. I know it's crazy. And he played it for us. And that's when we saw the footage of the second plane hitting. And we realized, things were going to change. That afternoon, my company commander, Captain Romaniello, came and grabbed me, knowing that I had family in New York. That's where I spent every weekend pass. And we drove to main base, where he got his orders, and I was able to call home. We got back, and on the drive back, he told me things are going to change. The exercise ended. They put us in a staging area in big circus tents, and what do you know, a day later, a tornado comes through, and guys had to be medevaced. But then we flew back to Fort Drum. We got issued all our desert stuff. We palletized all our desert equipment, as well as our woodland equipment, and we sat for 2 weeks. And then we deployed beginning of November for 7 months. That would be the first of many deployments for me after 9/11. I spent my entire adult life going after the people that did this to our nation. I know lots of other people that, maybe did one trip and got out. I know lots of guys that, we put in the ground, unfortunately. But it is imperative that we don't forget this type of stuff, that we don't forget these type of atrocities that happen to our country. We barely remember Pearl Harbor at this point, but that's another one. We have to remember these incidents, these attacks on our nation, so that we remember that there's real problems out there. We need to unify as a nation again and focus on the real problems instead of this little ankle biter stuff that, sucks up all our time and energy, and it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So I'd just like you to take a moment, think about that. Think about what you've done to serve your nation, your community, because I've devoted my life to that. And hopefully we can get back on track, focus as a community, and that word unity that's in it, and start moving things forward in the right direction again. Have a good one.
Wow, dude, powerful, man. Thank you for your service and everything you've done for us.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of other people served. It's just, I think we've lost focus of what's important, and some things need to be said, and more importantly, some things need to be heard.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like, I saw the most disturbing thing today. Somebody said whenever they see somebody post the American flag as their desktop icon or as their emoji or background, whatever, that they automatically assume that they're a racist.
Oh, yeah, that's gotten so out of control, man. Like, being patriotic's now racism, and it's like, you people don't even know what real racism is. Like, that's the thing, is people have lost sight of what racism means, and it's frustrating. But
well, it's taken the whole bite out of everything, and what I try to implore upon people is when you look at Scandinavian countries, the only flag on a flagpole was the Danish flag. That's it.
Right.
And even though they're considered a democratic socialist nation, nationalism is still the number one component of what makes it work for them.
Right, the great unifier.
Yeah, it really is.
I kind of agree with that. I think, especially as schools, and we're seeing it, I think it was at Muskego, like, announced over the summer that it'd only be like the U.S. and the Wisconsin state flag are the only, like, all their flags are not to be flown, held up on the wall, put in windows, anything at school. I agree with that.
I agree with that too. I mean, after all, we're in Wisconsin, we're in the United States.
Yep.
And what I've tried to implore to people that want to get into identity politics and break things down into segregation and to this group, that group, is that the American flag is the great unifier.
Right.
It really is. It is every other flag or special slogan wrapped up into one. And it's for everyone. That's the beauty of it. It really is.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I wrote this was years ago. I wrote an op-ed, Racing Journal Times, and it was basically like my views on racism post-retirement. And people that identified themselves as being open-minded liberals were immediately more prejudiced than anybody else. And it was always, it started off like, where are you from? I'm from here. I grew up here. No, but where are you really from? Here, I grew up here. Well, where are your parents from? Indiana, New York. Like,
Right.
what are you getting at?
What are you
Like,
getting
like,
at? Yeah, what,
No, but where are you really from? I'm like, oh, you're asking like where my ancestors come from, Puerto Rico and Mexico. But that's irrelevant, But they want to categorize you into your little thing, and then it would be, well, they were trying to play, well, what it feel like coming here, and I'm like, I'm from here. What do you mean coming here? Or you didn't go to college, so you don't understand. Or you never traveled, so you understand. It's like, I actually have a master's degree. I speak multiple languages. I traveled all over the world, not the touristy spots that mommy and daddy paid for, but like real bad places where real atrocities happen. And you could just see the wind come out of their sails every time. But it was like, people that identified as conservative were super welcoming when I got here, asked me, invited me to things. But those open-minded folks, because I didn't fit in their little, well, you're a minority, so we need to put you in. Like,
Right.
It's way more, prejudice to me or
that's
racist to me.
something that my wife's family experienced too when they came over from Bosnia, is that they said that they never looked at politics. They just looked at people. And that's one thing that they escaped, was the fact that people were being put into boxes. Oh, you're a
Literally.
Serb.
Yeah. They're called coffins.
Yes, it is. Or a hole in the middle of a farm field, right?
yeah.
And I lampoon it, but at the same time, it's a very stark reminder of what they escaped from. And I know her and her family are very disenchanted to see what is happening here, because I've told this to people before. Use the Balkan Wars as an interesting template and a learning experience, because the propaganda, the breaking apart of people by nationality, by race, by religion, by color, by orientation, it all started before they got to where they ended up getting to. And I've said this before, and you've been there. I felt that the Balkans was a sandbox.
Yeah. No,
And it was a trial
really is.
run for something else, something more sinister. And if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it.
Right.
So-
And it's we constantly see this breaking down into more specific groups of, we have a, not just Veterans Day anymore. We have to have a, Hispanic Veterans Day, a Women's Veterans Day, an African American. And it's like, no, Veterans Day wasn't for one group. It was for all veterans. Just leave it at that. A Veterans Day. We don't need to have, and it's almost every day now, every week is some other special group recognition. It's like, no, we don't need to recognize every single person. Just, we are who we are as a people, as an American people. And I always challenge people is like, if you want to know like true appreciation for our country, fly into Ronald Reagan over in DC, take a Uber, a cab, and ask your driver how they came to our country and why they're here. And you will hear with holding back tears of why they came to our country and why it's the best nation on this earth.
And that's something that ties in with the real subject at hand here, is being a hero and heroism. Is that, again, it's one of those things that they don't just want you to be somebody great. They want you to be this little box and define you. And then they also want to say, oh, well, this person was heroic for speaking up for insert flavor of the week here. But what defines a real hero, though? I mean, Marty, in your eyes, what defines a real hero?
And before I give my definition, it's true. Everybody wants this I'm a hero status. And I remember this is 2016, 17. I was working with a mentor of mine. His call sign was Ringo. And he was venting about that one day. We were having our morning coffee, and he's like, I'm tired of hearing everybody calling everybody a hero. Like, because everybody's a hero, then nobody is. And what did you do that's that spectacular? You did your job today. Like, that doesn't qualify you as being a hero. And this is a guy that, he's a legend in our community. And anybody watching, they hear Ringo, they know who I'm talking about. So my definition of a hero is a person that just does their job every day to the best of their ability and has that one extremist situation where they rise to the occasion. That's what a hero is. Now that can be, when we talk about first responders, that could be the nurse that's on her way home from work and stops at a car crash and pulls somebody out and stops the bleeding. That could be the off-duty police officer that's out boating on the weekend that jumps in to save somebody drowning. That's where you're stepping up instead of, oh, not my job, I'm off duty.
Right.
Sorry, that's what being a hero is taking that extra step and doing something to actually save somebody's life, putting your life in danger to save somebody else's life.
I always had a hard time accepting the hero title, not for myself, but just in general with people. Like, I draw the line and say, okay, what is a hero? And I gave up in believing in heroes, but I believe in heroic acts. And I think that
I can see that.
heroism ties in with what we talked about a few episodes back, integrity. And I feel that if you have integrity, you are a hero in a sense, just day in and day out, because you're making a difference.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a blurred definition that we have between a role model and a hero. Like by job definition, whether you're a teacher, law enforcement, firefighter, you're a role model in your community. At least you should be. However, that doesn't necessarily make you a hero. You're still a role model people look up to, but you do that extremist act where you put your life in danger to save another life, then that's where you get the actual title of a hero. Just because you're a role model doesn't necessarily make you a hero.
That makes a lot of sense. And you're right. People do jade that definition all the time. I always say, oh, well, this person is a hero. And I'm like, you know what?
What they do.
Yeah. And I mean, and I'm certainly not discounting anyone on the front lines of any fight, be it fire, police, medical, EMT. You guys are doing one hell of a job. And you know what? You made a conscious effort to say somebody else is more important than me today, tomorrow, the next day. They're more important than my family day in and day out. In that regard, I would say, yes, you are a hero.
But we've also seen the flip side of that, where that sense of entitlement has formed.
Yes.
I'd say over the last 5-ish years, where we've all been waiting in a waiting room at the hospital in the ER, where the service is terrible. Every medical professional has an attitude.
Yeah.
You have to prove that you're there for validation.
Or the Messiah complex. Yeah.
Or even you have the, we've seen and talked about the law enforcement officers that, well, going to rescue calls beneath me, so I'm not going to go to it. And it's like, but they're the ones that wear their thin blue line hoodie and baseball hat and sit there at the bar expecting everybody to buy them a drink. Yeah. So you have to earn that title. It's not something owed to you. And specifically, I remember this was right after COVID, the restrictions were lifting, and I'm on a flight. And, I always fly American Airlines and get the upgrade just because all the travel I do for work. And they had extra seats, whatever, and they're starting to upgrade people. And of course, they're, people that have the status and whatever, they're calling them up front. Well, this lady who's already sitting like in extra, room row starts losing her mind. Well, I'm a nurse. I should get to go up there. And the flight attendant's like, ma'am, we have people that, have paid to get these upgrades. Like they have first priority. And then if nobody, but she started making a scene. But I'm a nurse. I'm a hero. And it's like, so you just took it from every nurse that goes in and does their job to the best of their ability. Now everybody's like looking side eye at you like, well, what's your deal, lady?
But it's also the media too, and the way that during COVID they resurrected the nurse onto this pillar. And I'm not saying they're not. No, please, before we get bombarded in the comments section, I'm not bashing anyone in the COVID fight. Anyone, regardless of my personal views of all of it were. That's neither here nor there. They still put in crazy hours. They put risk out there. They didn't even know what they were fighting in most cases.
Right.
They were fighting something blind. And for that alone, I give you mad props.
Yep.
But don't expect people to kiss your ass. Sorry. And that goes for law enforcement, military. No offense. I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
Marty's all three of them, so don't expect anyone to kiss your ass, Marty. Sorry, pal, it ain't happening here.
Yeah. Oh, it never happens. more often than not, I get spit on. So I'm like, oh, so what did I do this time? Yeah.
But at the end, for me, to go back to the whole hero mentality is, I agree with you. It has to be a title that is earned. And it doesn't have to be, oh my God, I saved 100 kids from a fire.
Right.
It could be as simple as like my brother's teacher in second grade. If you ask me what a hero is, here's a good definition. She saw that my brother was having an issue with just learning stuff, like a small learning disability. Now, this is going back to the early 70s.
Okay, yeah.
So
Times are definitely
back
different,
then,
yeah.
it was a smack upside the back of the head and get on with it. Why are you such an idiot?
Right.
But she realized my brother's trying real hard and that he was having an issue.
Something not right, yeah.
Exactly. And what it boiled down to was she discovered he was dyslexic.
Yeah, go figure.
And it changed his whole life. And just the extra few hours she spent working with him to try to get to the root cause of something, that to me is a hero, because she wanted to make a difference in his life and
Went
made
above
sure.
and beyond.
Yes.
Other teachers would have just done the
Yeah.
yardstick to the back of the head and let's go, dummy.
Exactly.
And times change, and we're in one of these times again. So when I enlisted, it was peacetime, in the 90s, and so like people were judged by the flair they had in their uniform. So like what schools you had been to, and we had some guys that were, some platoon sergeants and higher that had been guys in Mogadishu, or some guys that had been in Panama were still around. But like Vietnam guys were already tuning out, retired. So it was real long scale combat experience. It was few and far between. And then the war kicked off after 9/11. And it was crazy to see those guys who had all their flair. They were not as good as they portrayed themselves to be. And then guys that were younger or didn't have all the schools were the ones that really stood up. And my concern is we're in kind of that same boat now. We don't have a lot of the experiences and some of the things that were even happening as things were winding down overseas. A lot of that experience and knowledge has been lost. And we're going back to that same mentality of, well, what school have you been to this year? What training exercise have you been to this year? And it's like, that doesn't replicate real experience.
And the other side of it is that because they did go to said school, get said training, they all of a sudden think, oh, well, I got this.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I'm the guy. Look at
Yeah.
me. Woohoo! Got
It's
my
that
bling.
Lifetime Achievement Award. And
Exactly.
what's crazy, I've been to courses later in career after going to like the base level course, and they give you a pre-test up front just to humble you, to be like, look how little you've actually retained from your initial training, and over 2 weeks, doing in and out, you were back up to that level again. But it was that quick reminder of like, hey dude, if you don't put in time to actually train on this stuff you learned 10 years ago, it ain't gonna help you today.
Well, it's the same thing we see with anything. Firearms especially. I was reading a story where there was a home invasion and a guy fired 7 shots, missed every single shot on the home invader. And I said, okay, just because you have something doesn't mean you know how to use it proficiently.
Right.
And we recently did a whole sparring seminar last Friday, and it was excellent, well attended. And we had a black belt from Alpha who came out. Thank you, Chase. We appreciate you being here. And one of the guys that he was sparring with, who will remain nameless, who I know has watched the show, he got splatted on his back twice. And you could laugh about it because it was magnificent.
I have in my mind who it is, but I'm not going to say the name.
It's him. It's him. I know who it is. And he'll probably own up to it in the comments section. So the thing is that what he said to me was so amazing afterward. He goes, that was so humbling. ... I needed that.
Right.
And that is the type of learning experiences that I thrived with. I got my lights knocked out by another instructor early on in my career. And you know what? I needed that because it made me feel human again. When you're up there teaching anything, and this goes to all educators, hint, hint.
The foot stomp.
The foot stomp. And it's, please understand something. Don't forget what it's like to be in that extra seat. Don't forget to be what it's like to be a student again. And I think everyone needs to experience that and kind of be taken down a notch. And that's what's missing is We can't take people down a notch in a constructive way anymore without it being considered slander or a personal attack, right? An invasion of personal space.
That goes back to first episode again. You're never as good as you think you are.
Right.
You always have to be seeking some type of improvement, and attend the other classes, listen to other people and what they have. So yeah, that being said, I guess to sum everything up, just remember, like, there's a difference between role models and heroes. I know we've gone over a lot, but our law enforcement, our first responders, teachers should all be role models in the community. Should be in the keyword, not necessarily saying they are. But no, they should be role models in the community. But once again, just like I said with the 9/11 thing, community is the key word, with that word unity. And we need to get back to that. Stop with the I'm the most special. I need to be in my own little special category. And let's get back to the community, which leads to greater unity. Got anything else?
Thank you guys. Keep responding back in the comment section below. Like us, follow us on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, this is a BS plug, but I really don't care because we get better as you get better. Seriously, guys, thank you so much. And, Marty, thank you.
Yep,
yes.
Have a good one.